Okay, so what happened the last weeks was that we were trying to find our direction of the proper path to practice, and then we actually also embark on how we should actually embark on the path to complete the Noble Eightfold Path. I'm trying to get this out of the way. Okay, good. And then today, of course, I was hoping to touch on the importance of right view so that we can really complete the Noble Eightfold Path accordingly and to end with the goal of awakening. But before I go into the topic of right view, there are some questions that were sent to me from the last two sessions. So I'll try to answer all the 7 questions if possible, as best as my knowledge serves me. So the first question is there any difference for taking 3 refuges and 5 precepts in all the different traditions of Buddhism? It does not matter. There's no difference. I believe that the 3 refuges and the 5 precepts are all the same. But I think in the Mahayana tradition, they usually give it as a form of ceremony, and you have a little kind of certificate to prove that you have taken the 3 refuges and the 5 precepts. But I think in the Theravada, such ceremonies are not conducted. Usually in the Theravada tradition, every time you go for a sutta discussion or sutta talk or whatever, usually the teacher will start with giving you the 3 refuges and the 5 precepts. So in the Vajrayana, I'm not sure because I haven't really taken any refuges and 5 precepts under the Vajrayana. But as far as I do understand, all of them actually are the same. Yep, the triple gem, taking refuge in the triple gem, and also the reminder that we have to practice the 5 precepts every day. And the 5 precepts is actually a sort of warranty for us to be reborn into the human realm again, if we want to have a human rebirth. That is, if we are not enlightened in this lifetime. So it is very important for the 5 precepts to be reminded, to be reinforced every time. So I hope that answers the first question. And second question is, may I know right concentration is considered in any jhanas, even someone who has attained the first jhana? Now, right concentration, as Ajahn Brahm and I prefer to call concentration, we prefer to call it right stillness of the mind, because when the mind is still, then it is considered what we call right samadhi, sama samadhi. So for a person who has attained the first jhana, yes, you need to have stillness of the mind in order to go into a jhana. Okay, so is it considered in any jhanas? Yes, it is very important. Stillness of the mind is one aspect of the jhanic conditions. So, Venerable, this is the OOC question. I was actually looking up online what is OOC. So, is out of common or out of character or out of something?
Context.
Out of context. Oh, okay. Okay, there were quite a few explanations there. So this is a question, but it is said that the lineage of Bhikkhuni in Theravada is broken. Some think that there shouldn't be re-establishment of the Bhikkhuni. Some think that there should be re-establishment of the Bhikkhuni. May I ask, how do we view this issue? Now, if you really want to learn about the details of this, there are many on the Google. If you go to the BSV YouTube channel, BSV, Buddhist Society of Victoria, we do have some what I call interviews with the nun, who is that, and the lady from Sri Lanka who worked together to re-establish the Bhikkhuni lineage that was broken in Sri Lanka. Okay, now, when we talk about the lineage of Bhikkhuni in the Theravada tradition, we have to understand that when Sanghamitra went from India to Sri Lanka to establish the Bhikkhuni lineage there, it was continued for almost a few for a few hundred years. I would say it was lost about 1,000 over years before in Sri Lanka. But before it was lost, in the initial stage of the Bhikkhuni lineage in Sri Lanka, I think, if I remember correctly, it was in the 5th century, 400 plus, that in China, there was a request for the Theravada Bhikkhunis from Sri Lanka to go to China, I think it's Nanling at that time, to ordain the Bhikkhunis in Nanling, China. So at that time, they had this dual platform ordination, first with the nuns and then with the monks. So the history of all this can be found online too. There are some researches done online. If you want to read, you can actually go and search for Bhikkhu Bodhi or Bhikkhu Analio and Ajahn Brahm, Ajahn Sujato. They have written a few books and articles about the re-establishment of this Bhikkhuni lineage. Now, when the Chinese nuns were ordained by the Sri Lankan nuns at that time, they were actually given the precepts according to the Theravada tradition. And ever since the first ordination of the nuns in China, the lineage was never broken. So because in China, it actually the lineage actually flourished and actually spread it to other parts of Asia, Vietnam, Singapore, Malaysia, Taiwan, all these, even parts of Thailand, and also it also spread it to other Asian countries. So the lineage of the so-called Bhikkhuni lineage from China, which later was labeled as Mahayana Bhikkhuni, actually was never broken. They were actually, we did researches on the Vinaya rules and the dual platform ordination procedure and all that. They are very similar. There's just a very slight differences in the Vinaya rules of the Theravada Bhikkhunis between Mahayana and Theravada. So Theravada has 311 rules for Bhikkhunis. Mahayana has 348. Now the difference lies in the small Vinaya rules surrounding the conditions about how one should behave around the stupas. So that is the only difference in the Vinaya rules of the Bhikkhuni lineages from Theravada and Mahayana. So of course, because the nuns in China, they were labeled as Mahayana nuns. Okay, so later on they did take the Bodhisattva vows and all those things that came later on in the lineage. So of course, some people actually think that the nuns in China cannot be considered Theravada, but it all started as Theravada. All right. So there's a lot of arguments over there, but after very in-depth research by these scholars, okay, even Ajahn Brahm and Bhante Sujato, we did a lot of research on whether it is actually still valid to revive the Bhikkhuni lineage in the Theravada tradition, and it all started in Sri Lanka, of course. So there are arguments here and there between even amongst the nuns themselves, especially in the bhikkhus themselves. Yeah, but eventually the conclusion was that it is actually legal to revive the lineage of Bhikkhuni. And it also was started by Venerable Xing Ying Fa Si of Fo-Guang-Shan in 1988. I'm trying to remember all the facts here. In 1988, I think Venerable Xing Ying Fa Si was mentioning that since the Chinese nuns received their first ordination from the Sinhalese nuns, why don't we give back the lineage back to the Sri Lankan nuns from China, from the Mahayana, back to the Sinhalese nuns? So they did a lot of research. And in fact, the nun who actually helped in reviving this lineage in Sri Lanka, she has passed away already. I'm trying to recall her name. Actually, she's actually a professor in a university in Sri Lanka. And if you look it up, let me see whether I can find it here or not. Let me see. She and this lady, Ranjini De Silva, this lady, she's now 85 years old. She's actually living with us here in Newbury Buddhist Monastery because she says that she has done a lot of work to revive the Bhikkhuni lineage. And she hopes that although she cannot be a nun at her age, she really wished to be wearing the robe, but because she's 85, it's a bit difficult for her. So she has actually applied to us to see whether she can stay with us or not. Yeah. So this nun and this lady from Sri Lanka, they were the ones who actually fought for the revival together with the bhikkhus from Sri Lanka too. So if you are able to refer to the videos that you can find on the BSV channel, and also maybe on other YouTube channels, you may be able to come across all this. Give me a moment, please. I try to get this name. Okay. Oh, okay. So if you go to the website entitled Bhikkhuni Resurrection, you will have this interview conducted by the monk Jack, and I was there helping to interview this Bhikkhuni who was asked to be part of the Bhikkhuni revival because she actually was able to give more prominence, more weight to the revival of the Bhikkhunis in Sri Lanka, because most of the nuns in Sri Lanka were just 10 preceptors and they are not very highly educated, right? So this nun was asked to take part. She was doing some research in Korea to see whether they can actually revive this Bhikkhuni lineage. And at that time, when things were getting too tough for the bhikkhus in Sri Lanka, one of the bhikkhus was supporting them. I actually called her up in Korea to say that, look, we need someone who is able to be honored and respected, someone who is praiseworthy to be part of the team to be revived. And so this lecturer, okay, in a professor in this university of, I think, Kalyana University or something like that, the monk asked her, "Are you happy to become a nun at her age of 70, about 70 years old?" So at that time, the monk was telling her that if you don't agree, then I'm going to call off the whole thing. So they worked so hard for the revival to take place, and there was this last-minute doubt that if there's no properly qualified bhikkhuni to be included into the team, then the bhikkhus are not going to support it. So this nun actually decided that, yes, Venerable Sir, please don't call off the whole thing. I'm happy to become a nun despite my age. As long as I'm accepted, I'm happy to be part of the team. And that was how she and the other selected nuns were sent to India. I think I'm not sure whether it's Bodh Gaya or Sanath. You have to, I can't quite recall now because there are so many incidences there. And they were ordained there. And they had to really stay in the the monastery in India for almost 2 years, just to avoid being what is the thing called? Censored by the people in Sri Lanka, because they deemed that with their ordination, they actually had to receive their precepts from Mahayana nuns and monks, Mahayana bhikkhus and bhikkhunis. Okay, so now I'm trying to get the name of this one. Kusuma. Kusuma. Ayya Kusuma. She's the person who became the first nun to be ordained to revive the lineage. But as I was saying, in 1988, the Venerable Singing Pastor actually sent some Sri Lankan nuns to his monastery, Silai Monastery in America, to get ordained. But because those nuns were not very well educated, when they went back to Sri Lanka, they were not accepted. So, but they were still living as bhikkhunis. We heard recently that I think a few of them are still alive. Yeah, living as bhikkhunis, but they were not accepted because at that time it was still a very new topic about the revival of bhikkhunis in Sri Lanka. So this is the reason why the first batch who went to Silai Monastery, where Ayya Khema was also ordained. Ayya Khema, the very popular Ayya Khema, who started a monastery in Wat Buddha Dhamma in Sydney, Australia. She was part of the team who was ordained then in 1988. So there was a lot of controversy. The Western nun was accepted, but not the Sri Lankan nuns. So there are a lot of complicated issues before it was finally accepted in 1998, I think. 1998, there was another group of Sri Lankan nuns who went to Bodh Gaya to get their ordination, first from the Mahayana monks and nuns, and then they had a separate ordination by the Sri Lankan bhikkhus who gave them the Theravada robes and the bowls and give them another ordination to confirm them as Theravada nuns. So this is just a summary of what really happened during those years. And because of that 1998 ordination, when the nuns went back to Sri Lanka, they were officially accepted. And that was how they all started to continue ordaining bhikkhunis then. But at the same time, other places in like America, Ayya Tataloka, and in... I can't hear. Is there something going on?
Yeah, can everyone just unmute yourself? I mean, sorry, let's mute.
Yeah. Okay. So please, in order not to waste time, please go onto the website to look for more details. This is something that takes a long time to really explain all the controversial issues that happen. And in fact, in Australia, Ajahn Brahm was excommunicated from his Thai monastery because he had to ordain 4 nuns in Perth. Yeah. So all these things can be found on the website. So let's not spend too much time answering this. This is a very old issue now. Okay, so let me get this out of the way. Oops. Okay, now the other question is, so the last question was, may I ask, how do we view this issue? You can judge for yourself. There are so many Theravada bhikkhunis now in the world, and there are quite a number of monasteries for nuns, Theravada nuns nowadays in the world, in everywhere, in Thailand, in Vietnam, Australia, of course, all over the world. You can actually go online and find out, okay? All right. Now, number 4, what are the hallmarks of one who has achieved enlightenment? Okay, it's very hard for us to know. I'm not enlightened yet. I'm not able to answer this question, but I think you can still find that out from some articles written by very famous scholars, Buddhist scholars. Okay, the hallmarks of one who is achieved. But of course, one who has attained awakening will be one who is very peaceful, one who is very much at ease, one who is very humble and grateful and respectful, very cheerful. Yeah. Someone who is not egoistic, very simple to support and all that. So all these are one we can associate with, and there are many such practitioners around us actually, if we are blessed enough to encounter them. Okay.
Venerable,
yes.
Why isn't it written down in Buddhist texts about these hallmarks? Why is that kept secret or is not published at all?
No, actually, there are suttas on how the qualities of one who is enlightened. They have all the knowledges, they have all the psychic powers, they have all the what you call special skills. They are all in the suttas. You can just go online and find out one who is enlightened, what are the knowledges they have, especially the knowledges of Buddha, the three knowledges. That is the most important. Someone who knows their past, someone who can see beings born and reborn according to their causes and conditions. And of course, the most important is how the enlightened one knows that they have already eradicated all their taints and all their defilements in life, and that there's no more rebirth. So these are the hallmarks. But how do we know? We will know. A person who is attained, a person who is awakened will not come and tell you like the Buddha, right? The Buddha says, I'm awakened, but he's a Buddha. Any one of us who are following the teachings of Lord Buddha, especially for us as monastics, even if someone is already highly achieved, they are not going to tell you, I'm already attained, I'm already awakened. It is actually against our Vinaya rules. Yep. Okay. So is that okay with you?
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much.
Okay. Yeah. So the number 5, may I know what is Buddha's omniscience? Does arahats have omniscience too? Now, omniscience, I believe, is knowing everything. Now, the Buddha, there are some arguments, of course, but then from what we have learned from our teachers, the Buddha can only know things when he focuses his mind on something. He cannot know everything at the same time. So this is what we learn. Again, you can really find out. Let me give you a website for you to go to look up for all these answers. If you go to the website called Access to Insight, ACCESSTOINSIGHT, Access to Insight. You can just type in any topic you want. All the answers are there. Okay. And if you want to find out about suttas, you can find out from this website, or you can go to Sutta Central. Sutta Central. Sutta Central is good because you can find the parallels. You can see whether the same sutta that you are hoping to investigate is actually also having a parallel in other languages or in other traditions. Okay, so these two websites are really good. It will really answer lots of your questions. Okay, in details too. And you have many scholarly monastics who are actually writing very good articles about all these kind of questions that you are asking. Is it okay? All right. Now, number 6, I don't understand this concept of 3 pure meats. If one eats meat, the act of eating meat creates a market demand for meat. If there is a demand for meat, others will create a supply of meat. So eating meat will indirectly cause a life form to die, regardless of whether or not the meat eater personally wished for the death of that life form. I totally agree with you, actually. Now, there is another discussion amongst the venerables from the various traditions about this meat eating. Of course, according to the Buddha's teaching in the Vinaya, as long as you don't see it kill, don't hear it kill, don't suspect it kill, one can eat the meat. But that is merely to ensure the convenience of the monastics who are going for alms round. Because when we go for alms round, we will not tell the householder that we are going there. Neither will the householder know that the monastics are coming. So that is why the Lord Buddha says that monastics cannot be vegetarian, because Devadatta was trying to ask him to change the diet of all the monastics during the Buddha's time. His cousin Devadatta was requesting that all monastics should become vegetarian. But the Buddha knew that it was not practical, because when you go on alms round, you just eat what is given to you. Yeah. But of course, in the current modern days, we do have monastics who still go on alms round, like in Thailand, Burma, Sri Lanka, all these traditional countries, they do go on alms round. So again, they will also depend on the 3, what you call purified meat, okay? But for those of us who actually are given food to the monastery, or we have a choice of what to eat, I think the argument there is that, as what this Upasaka has mentioned, that when there's a demand, there will be supply. So I think Bhikkhu Bodhi was also one of those who was interviewed, and he was mentioning that, usually in the supermarket, when we go and buy meat, there will be somebody actually using a counter to see how much meat is needed to supply for the day's sale. So those who totally feel that meat eating is wrong, of course, they will feel that, as long as you are a meat eater, you are actually indirectly causing the death of a being. Okay, this is the argument there. But of course, there's also those who say that, well, we didn't ask them to be killed, so we are not responsible. We are just buying something that is already dead from the shelf. So this is an argument. Again, I will say that it's up to you, the individual, to discern for yourself whether you want to be a meat eater or not. Like in Newbury itself, we have monks and nuns here, and most of us are vegetarian. Once in a while, we get a monastic who is vegan. Okay, now it's up to the individual to decide how far they want to practice on this kindness to animals. Okay, and also we have to understand that even if we are vegetarian, vegetarianism alone doesn't direct us to becoming awakened. It is just part of the process of helping us to have compassion. And to be a vegetarian or to be a vegan, it has to come with right understanding. It's not because of for my good health or whatever, or because the precept says or whatever. You have to understand why we are vegetarians, why we are vegans. And even when we are vegetarian and vegans, we shouldn't be actually condemning those who are not vegetarian or vegans. It's their choice. If we condemn them, we are also, generating some unwholesome mindset. Yeah. So then there's discrimination. So practice is actually up to the individual. As our teachers always say, no matter how sick you are, you need to take your own medication. No matter how hungry you are, you still need to take your own food. No one can do it for you. So it depends on the individual to decide whether you want to be a pure vegetarian or a vegan, or accepting things that is given to you, as long as it doesn't entail killing right in front of you, or hearing it being killed, or suspecting that it's being killed for you. Okay, I hope that answers the question.
Yes, thank you, Venerable. I appreciate that part about alms giving. That was very,
Yeah. Okay. All right. So the seventh question is out of context, Venerable. May I ask if out of body experience during meditation is normal? When one is closing their eyes during meditation and suddenly feels as though they are outside the body. Yes, it is normal. If you're able to have stillness of the mind, but not to the stillness where you are in jhanic stages, all right? It is very common for meditators, even lay people, to go into an out-of-body meditation experience. Okay? Does that satisfy everybody? All right, so these are the 7 questions for tonight. I think I've touched them all. Okay, so now we embark on tonight's topic on the importance of right view. Now, as everybody knows, the Eightfold Path, it all starts with right view, right? If you don't have right view, everything will become wrong. Okay, so I'm just going to refer to 2 suttas, because I like to refer to suttas so that it's not something created by anybody. 2 suttas, let me see where. Okay, here is one of them. Now, there are 2 suttas talking about right views, which is called Samaditthi. And the first one that I'm referring to is found in Majjhima Nikaya number 9. It's actually spoken by Sariputta. And there's another one in Majjhima Nikaya 117, which is spoken by the Lord Buddha. Okay, so I will just briefly introduce what Theravada view, or maybe other tradition view too, as right view. Okay, let me see where the other one is. Okay, here we go. Okay, now there are some teachers who feel that right view, there's only right view that's taught by the Buddha. But then there are also teachers who say that there are two levels of right view taught by the Buddha. So I'm actually trying to refer to the sutta taught by the Buddha to say that indeed it was mentioned that there were two levels of right view taught by the Buddha. Although, as I say, some teachers feel that there's only one kind of right view. Okay, so these are questions that is very commonly asked even by our students or by our devotees who come for Dhamma talks. If I'm able to come to the monastery to listen to Dhamma, am I not having right view? Okay, so according to the Theravada, I'm reading this article. Where is this from? Okay, it's found in Samadhi. The Theravada explanation of right view can be subdivided into, now this is by Bhikkhu Bodhi, okay? He says that, Bhikkhu Bodhi says that right view can be divided into mundane right view and superior or supra-mundane right view. Now, most Mahayana teachers will agree with this explanation that there are two levels of right view, mundane and supramundane. Okay, now what do we mean by mundane right view? Okay, that is a knowledge of the fruits of good behavior, means you understand and accept karma. Yeah, and having this view, you will do things that will bring merit and support a more favorable rebirth of the being in the realm of samsara. So this is called mundane right view. Mundane right view does not lead us to awakening. And supramundane, which is a world transcending kind of right view, okay, it is actually the understanding of the Four Noble Truths which lead to awakening and liberation from rebirth. Okay, so this is associated with understanding the dukkha in the realms of samsara. And according to Bhikkhu Bodhi, of course, this kind of right view comes at the end of the path, not at the beginning. Okay, so at the beginning, right view, some teachers say is right view for one whose behavior is wholesome and will also bring us wholesome merits, favorable merits. And then, according to Bhikkhu Bodhi, the right view that leads us to awakening actually comes at the end of the path, not the beginning. But many of us tend to think that right view from the beginning of the Noble Eightfold Path is very important, because if you start with wrong views, everything will be wrong from then onwards. You have to have a right view so that your actions, your speech, your livelihood, everything can depend on your right view. So right view, of course, is trying to understand karma. Okay, you have to accept and understand karma. Every action of body, speech, and mind that has karmic results and influence the kind of future rebirth and realms. Okay, and then we also have to understand and accept the three characteristics of the world. Okay, so that is impermanence, anicca, impermanence, dukkha, unsatisfactoriness of phenomena, and also anatta, the non-self. Okay, that means something that we cannot really control. Okay, it's all due to causes and conditions. And of course, we have to understand and accept the Four Noble Truths. And that can be reinforced by the understanding of the 12 links through the Paticca Samuppada, which is actually the dependent origination. Okay, so all these things will lead us towards liberation, will lead us towards what we call the state of deathlessness or no more rebirth. Okay, so meaning we can become an arahant. Okay, so these are the two layers of right view that is now being taught. Is again, I would always say that it's up to us individual to explore and see what makes sense to us and then accept it. Like for me personally, I do believe that I need to have right view. For me as a householder, a very mundane lay person, I need to have some kind of mundane right view for me to enter into wanting to learn Buddhism or wanting to do some wholesome actions and all that, and also to stop all unwholesome actions. It needs some kind of mundane right view. Of course, that will give us things like doing meritorious deeds, getting more blessings for better rebirth, whether it's in this life or future life. Right. And then the other one is, of course, the transcending right view, which will lead us towards liberation from samsara. So these are the two kinds that we are talking about. So I'm going to just read a little extract from this sutta from Majjhima Nikaya number 9. It is called Samaditi Sutta. Samaditi is right view. So this one is translated by Bhikkhu Thanisaro. So it goes something like this. It's just an abstract, okay? Good friend, having delighted in and approved of Venerable Sariputta's words, the monks asked Venerable Sariputta a further question. Would there be another line of reasoning by which a disciple of the Noble Ones is a person of right view and who has arrived at this true Dhamma? So there were some other questions in between. I'll just sort of like summarize it. Then Venerable Sariputta answered, there would be when a disciple of the Noble Ones discerns consciousness, the origination of consciousness, the cessation of consciousness, and the way of practice leading to the cessation of consciousness, then he is a person of right view and who has arrived at this true Dhamma. And what is consciousness? What is the origination of consciousness? What is the cessation of consciousness? What is the way of practice leading to the cessation of consciousness? So there are these 6 classes of consciousness: eye, ear, nose, tongue, body, and mind. These are called the consciousnesses, okay? Now, from the origination of fabrication comes the origination of consciousness. Now, fabrication here refers to our sankhara, our will to do something, our reaction, respond to something. Okay, so when the cessation of all this, what we call sankhara action, okay, or mental evolution, you may call it, it comes the cessation of consciousness. And the way of practice leading to the cessation of consciousness is through the Noble Eightfold Path. So the first one is right view. Then, of course, they have the right resolve, or you call it right intention, right? And then right speech, right action, right livelihood, right effort, right mindfulness, and right stillness. Okay, so now when a disciple of this Noble Ones discerns consciousness, the origination, the cessation, the way of practice leading to the cessation of consciousness, when having entirely abandoned passion, obsession, having abolished aversion, obsession, having uprooted view and conceit of I am, having abandoned ignorance and given rise to clear knowledge, he has put an end to suffering and stress right in here and now. It is to this extent that a disciple of the Noble One is a person of right view. You've got it? Oh, good. Thank you. Okay. So this is the person who has arrived at this true Dhamma. So this is just a very short summary from Majjhima Nikaya number 9 on the importance of what is right view and on the importance of why one should start with right view. Now, the next one that I want to go into is, maybe if you can put it up for me, give a online presentation of Majjhima Nikaya 117. If you are able to do that, that would be simple. Otherwise, I'll just read from here. Majjhima Nikaya 117, if you can get it up. It's called the Chaturisakha Sutta. Yep, the Great 40, correct. All right, so we'll just go through the text here and see whether we need to elaborate on anything, because I think this is quite straightforward. Most of you would be able to understand. So I've heard on one occasion, the Blessed One was staying at Savatthi in Jada's Grove, another Pindikas monastery. There he addressed the monks. Monks, yes, Lord. The monks responded to him. So, of course, yes, Lord sounds very Christian, isn't it? So, sometimes you may be surprised to find that some of the scholars of the earlier, suttas, they were actually from the Christian background. Yeah. Okay, so the Lord Buddha said, monks, I will teach you noble right concentration with the support and requisite conditions. Listen and pay close attention. I will speak. Okay, so the Lord Buddha then said, now what monks is the right noble concentration? Now, again, concentration is something that has to do with stillness, okay? When the mind becomes united, when you are meditating, your mind is not scattered. You are no more pulling and tugging, no more vitaka, no more vichara. And then you are already going into piti and sukha, and then you go into ekagata, and that's where your stillness will come in. And when you are really in that form of stillness, you are going into a jhanic stage where you really have no sense of the body and you can't hear anything, and there's no thoughts arising. Okay, so that is called right stillness. Okay, any singleness of the mind equipped with these 7 factors. Okay, right view, right resolve is history, right intention, right speech, right action, right livelihood, right effort, and right mindfulness is called noble right concentration with its supports and requisite conditions. Okay, so of those, right view is the forerunner. You see how important it is, right view? The Buddha says it is the forerunner. Okay. And how is the right view the forerunner? One discerns wrong view as wrong view and right view as right view. This is one's right view. And what is wrong view? There is nothing given, nothing offered, nothing sacrificed. There's no fruits or result of good or bad actions. There's no this world, no next world, no mother, no father, no spontaneously reborn beings, no contemplatives or Brahmans who, faring rightly and practicing rightly, proclaim this world and the next after having directly known and realized for themselves. This is wrong view. Now, these are the views that were believed by, given by, and accepted by those other contemporaries of Lord Buddha during his time. I think there was some other practitioners of 5. I think there were 5 other practitioners during the Buddha's time where they were of various kind of wrong views. Okay, so this is one of those where they say you don't have to believe in filial piety, you don't have to believe in karma and all those things. There's nothing. So there's no holy people. You don't have to do good. There's no this world. There's no rebirth. Yep. Okay, so this is called wrong view. And what is right view? Right view, I will tell you, is of 2 sorts. There is the right view with affluence. Okay, this is the part which I was referring to just now, where 117 speaks about the 2 right views. So this is actually spoken by the Buddha. There is a right view with affluence, starting with merit, resulting in acquisitions of becoming. That means whatever you do, okay, you still will be reborn. Okay, and that is right view. That is noble, without affluence, transcendent, a factor of the path. Now, the second part is the right view that leads to awakening. And what is the right view with affluence, starting with merit, resulting in acquisitions? There is what is given, what is offered, and what is sacrificed. So this is all talking about cause and effect, okay? Cause and conditions, and there's always the afterlife, karma, and all that, okay? So when you believe and accept that all these things, whatever we do, whatever we say, whatever we think, comes with its karmic effects. Yeah, this is called right view with affluence, siding with merits and resulting in acquisitions. Okay, so you just have a better rebirth. You have a what I call more pleasant state of being because of doing things that is meritorious. All right, so what is the right view? That is noble, without affluence, transcendent, a factor of the path. The discernment, the faculty of discernment, the strength of discernment, analysis of qualities is a factor for awakening the path factor of right view in one developing the noble path, whose mind is noble, whose mind is without affluence, who is fully possessed of the noble path. This is right view that's noble, without affluence, transcendent, a factor of the path. Okay, so this one is actually explaining about the transcendental right view, okay, which is actually the whole of the Noble Eightfold Path, which leads to awakening if we follow it accordingly with wisdom. All right, so one makes an effort for the abandoning of wrong view and for entering into right view. This is one's right effort. One is mindful to abandon wrong view and to enter and remain in right view. This is one's right mindfulness. These three qualities, right view, right efforts, and right mindfulness, right, run and circle around right view. See, so everything comes from right view. Everything comes from right view. It's so important to have right view so that we do the right action, we speak the right things, we have good speech. Yeah, so although they talk about these three things, right, the rest actually all also enter right view. Okay, so even for right livelihood and right effort, all of these things, it has to come from right view. All right. Okay, so number two, of course, they say that of course, those right view is the forerunner. And how is right view the forerunner? One discerns wrong resolve as wrong resolve. Wrong resolve here means wrong intention. Yeah, and right resolve as right resolve. This is one's right view. And what is wrong resolve? Being resolved on sensuality, on ill will, on harmfulness. This is wrong resolve. So if you go into the Noble Eightfold Path, the right intention is what we call Sama Sankappa. Sama Sankappa actually is has three factors involved. So the intention of the right resolve is actually to be able to renounce, to be harmless, and also to have loving kindness, renunciation, and loving kindness, yeah, and ahimsa, yeah, harmlessness. Okay. All right. So, what is the right resolve with affluence, siding with merit, resulting acquisitions? Okay. So these are the things, right? The right resolve, the right intention for renunciation, for freedom from ill will. Oh, here it is, and resolve for harmlessness. So this is the right resolve with affluence, siding with merit, resulting in acquisitions. Now, this is what we call the mundane kind of right view. Do you want to scroll it up a little bit? Yeah, and so what is the right resolve that is noble, without affluence, transcendence, and a factor of the path? The thinking, directed thinking, resolve, mental fixity, mental transfixion, focus awareness, verbal fabrications in one, developing the noble path, whose mind is noble, whose mind is without affluence, who is fully possessed of the noble path. This is the right resolve that is noble, without affluence, transcendent, a factor of the path. So again, here it is all very clearly explained here. A factor of the path, the thinking, the directed thinking, the mindset, what we have to purify our mind, to abandon all evil, to do all good, and to purify the mind. Okay, so focus on awareness. We have to have mindfulness with clear awareness and verbal fabrications in one, developing the noble path, whose mind is noble. Now, verbal could be internal, what called chatters, or even expressed through speech. So all these things are to be clearly understood and to be practiced, okay, according to the Noble Eightfold Path. Okay, so like what is right speech? The qualities of right speech. All of you have already gone through all those kind of teachings, right? What is right action? What is right efforts? All these are there. So one makes an effort for the abandoning of wrong resolve and for entering right resolve. This is one's right effort. Okay, one is mindful to abandon wrong resolve and enter and remain in the right resolve. This is one's right mindfulness. Again, these three qualities run and circle around the right resolve. So now the Buddha is actually explaining the Eightfold Path accordingly, but it all started with right view. Okay, so are we able to go down so that we don't have to go through the Eightfold Path? Because I'm quite sure all of you have already gone through the Eightfold Path. Can we go to number 4? Let me see. Okay, no, we can skip that because it's all on the Noble Eightfold Path. We can go right to, yeah, you can go up some more because it's still on right livelihood. Okay, here, the last section. Okay, here. Right, okay, this section here, right? Maybe if you can go up a little, can go down a little bit. The one, yeah, okay, here. All right, got it. Thank you so much for this. I'm not good with this. Okay, of those, right view is the forerunner. Again, the Buddha emphasizes, of those, right view is the forerunner. And how is right view the forerunner? In one of the right view, right resolve comes into being, and then is followed by the Noble Eightfold Path. Okay, that whole section comes with the Noble Eightfold Path. So in one of right concentration, which is actually when the mind is still, right knowledge arises. Okay, so that's why the Noble Eightfold Path stops at samadhi. And then with samadhi, then you have vipassana, which is penetrative insight. Okay, so when one is into stillness of the mind, and when we are having that kind of jhanic stages, when the mind is pure and bright and quiet and clear, and if we are able to use that to direct into the teachings of Lord Buddha, then we can actually understand the Lord Buddha's teaching through direct knowledge. Okay, so in one of right knowledge, right release comes into being. So once we have that samadhi, which can help us to give rise to penetrative insight, then we know causes and conditions and all the teachings of the Buddha, which actually in embodies the whole kind of the natural phenomena around us, including we being part of nature. Okay. When we know all these things, then we will be released from abiding, from clinging to being a being, right? So then the learner is endowed with 8 factors and the arahant with 10. Okay, learner with 8 factors, the arahant with 10. The arahant, I think, the 10 factors, I think, is referring to the 10 factors which he has already abandoned. He's free from all those. Okay, so of those, right view is the forerunner. And how is right view the forerunner? In one of right view, wrong view is abolished. That is just natural. When you have right view, then wrong view is abolished. So it's just that when people ask us, Ayya Upekkha, how do we get rid of defilements? So you just do more good. When you have more time doing more good, putting all your effort in doing more good, then you will definitely reduce the opportunity of doing something that is bad. So when you focus on doing something that's wholesome, the unwholesome doesn't have an opportunity to be attended to. So when we have right view, then of course wrong view will be abandoned. It is just a natural kind of condition. So the many evil, unskillful qualities that come into play with wrong view as their condition are also abolished, right? This is a natural process. While the many skillful qualities that have right view as the condition go to the culmination of their development. In one of the right resolve, wrong resolve is abolished. In one of right speech, wrong speech is abolished. In one of right action, wrong action is abolished. In one of right livelihood, wrong livelihood is abolished. In one of right effort, wrong effort is abolished. So in one of right mindfulness, wrong mindfulness is abolished. In one of right stillness, wrong stillness is abolished. In one of right knowledge, wrong knowledge is abolished. So in one of right release, wrong release is abolished. So the many skillful evils, unskillful qualities that come into play with wrong release as the condition are also abolished, while the many skillful qualities that have right release as the condition go to the culmination of their development. So actually here I'm actually contemplating on what do they mean by wrong release as the condition. Yeah, the wrong release. So wrong knowledge, because when one has wrong knowledge, you definitely will be reborn again when we have wrong knowledge. So some people may just have some kind of jhanic experiences, and they feel that they are liberated, they are enlightened, which is actually not really true. So all these things are wrong knowledge, and you will not be released. Actually, you will be reborn again. Yeah. So, but I have to honestly say that this part where they speak about the many evil and unskillful qualities that come into play with wrong release as their condition also abolished. Now, this part I'm still not really clear as to how much it's involved. Well, I mean, for me personally, I don't think that one can be released when one has all those strong qualities, wrong, what they call stillness. Yeah. So you see, the question may be asked, what do you mean by wrong stillness? I'm not sure whether this is the correct answer or not, but we have been told that there are people who actually can go into wrong stillness of the mind, meaning they can go into stillness of the mind. But the thing is that the intention behind going to the stillness of the mind is not to do something wholesome, but to do something unwholesome. So I was told that those people who actually are able to do certain kind of chance to harm people and all those things, they also need a kind of very strong concentration in the mind to do that, but with wrong intention. That's why the Buddha always emphasized on sama, 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 sama. You must have right. Okay? So there are always the dark energies and the right energies that we're talking about in this world. So I won't go too deep into that, because this is something that is very, I would say, debatable. Okay, and I have to honestly say that I'm really not qualified to go into this kind of areas. Okay, I prefer to just stick with the Noble Eightfold Path and just be as simple as I can get and try to follow the teachings of Lord Buddha, go into meditation and trying to get experiences and see the results of what the Buddha has been teaching us. Okay, so all those other things, I will also encourage you not to go into exploration. Further exploration is just wasting our time. What for? Our life is short. We do not know when anicca is going to take us away from this present human form, and whether we can become another human being or not, we are not sure to. Right. So I would suggest that I would really discourage anyone from going to understand too many things that is not going to lead us towards liberation. Okay. All right. So thus, monks, there are 20 factors starting with skillfulness and 20 with unskillfulness. So this is why this is called the 40 great factors. Yep. So these two suttas are actually referred to mainly to emphasize the point that we must have right view in order for us to go on the right path, and only on the right path, then we can have right practice. With the right view, we have right understanding, then we have right intention, we have right efforts and all that. Then it can really lead us towards right stillness of the mind. Okay, so if we have a lot of things that's not right, it will sort of like deviate from the Noble Eightfold Path. It really won't lead us on the path at all. we will be wasting our time just trying to follow something which we think is right, but actually is leading us away from the Noble Eightfold Path. So it's important for us to have calorimeters around us and to remind us whether we are actually going into the correct direction or not. Yeah. So this is the reason why having all this kind of discussion and meeting up with friends and all that, and talking about your practice or talking about Dhamma, or even trying to clarify certain kind of doubts about certain kind of teachings or practice. All these things are important guidelines for us. In fact, before I came in here, we actually had a venerable. I was telling Louis about Kaitapasa. He's here with us this night. Is talking about the Mangala Sutta. Yeah. So Mangala Sutta is also something that I always recommended for everybody. I think I've mentioned that before. You just follow Mangala Sutta and Metta Sutta. We definitely will be on the right path and towards liberation too. So the Mangala Sutta is actually something that is very, very useful for not only monastics, but for lay people, especially before we become a monastic. And for those who cannot become a monastic, right, due to certain reasons, you may not be able to become a monastic. If you really follow and understand, if you understand the teachings of the Mangala Sutta, right, which has 38 kinds of blessings, is sort of like a preparatory stage where one lives as a householder, and then you sort of like understand whether your behavior and your conduct is actually moral or not, and then whether you have right livelihood. All those things slowly set you towards the what we call the ethical kind of behavior we should have. And then it also slowly progressed towards the spiritual aspect of it, and finally to be able to understand things with transcendental kind of right view. That means knowing the Four Noble Eightfold Path and the Four Truth, and also following the Noble Eightfold Path, leading towards liberation. So all these sutras which we think may not be very, very important. Actually, it is something that is a foundation for us to follow, especially for those of us who are still a lay person. Yeah. So, for tonight, I just want to touch on having right, the importance of having right view. Okay. I'm not sure what is the time now. What's the time now?
8:45.
Okay, so we have about 15 minutes more. I'm not sure whether you have any questions to ask on right view. It's very straightforward in these two extracts of sutta that I've been referring to. But it may seem straightforward. When it comes to application of it, it may not be very straightforward. There are a lot of things that we do not know where to draw the lines. Yeah. Okay, for instance, we were talking about as a householder, okay, the Mangala Sutta says that we need to have a proper locality that is conducive to us, and which can set us on the right course, which can give us the opportunity to do meritorious deeds and all those things. So one of the listeners actually were asking, in some areas, we don't really have a choice. When the government says you go there, you go there. Whether it's suitable or not, you still need to accept. You have no choice. So what do you do with that? Right? The sutta says that it's best to have a suitable locality. Right? It's just that for us monastics, the Buddha says that in a monastery, you should not be too far away, and you should also not be too near to the city. You should not be entangled too easy for people to come, but also not too difficult for people to come, right? And for monastics, the Buddha is always encouraging us to go into seclusion, to go in, to sit under the tree and in an open field or in the cave or something like that, very secluded areas. Right? But we also need to depend on the lay people to support us because of the livelihood we are following. we need to go for alms rounds and all those things, right? So even right now, even if we do go on alms round, the devotees need to come and support us with the 4 requisites. So we shouldn't make things so difficult for them to come, right? And the other factor is also for the devotees who are not able to live in a very suitable locality, if they can find a monastery with right practicing Sangha around, at least it gives them a chance not only to come to generate merits in supporting, but actually to be able to come and learn Dhamma from the monastics. We are talking about monastics who hopefully are practicing correctly, okay? So it's sort of like a reciprocal kind of relationship there. So you see, sometimes, like for instance, right now, I'm now here in Newbury Buddhist Monastery, which is in a regional area in Victoria, okay? For a lot of people from the city or from the other side of Victoria, it's sometimes maybe 2 to 3 hours just to drive one way to reach us. Now, that's a very long distance. Now, you may not believe it, but there are still some families who will drive 3 hours just to give us the food dana for lunch and then stay behind for a Dhamma discussion and then drive back later. It's about 2 to 3 hours each way. Yeah. So there are those people with such faith there. Of course, sometimes we feel a bit, not very comfortable. But again, it gives us that opportunity to reflect that, hey, am I worthy of all this support? For a person to drive that distance to come and give you food through such faith, right? And when they give, they really give, okay? So it also gives us a time to reflect, am I worthy of all these things? I better make sure that I really practice well so that I'm not indebted to the people who are supporting us. Yeah. So all these things are areas where we really need to deeply ponder upon. Yeah, how to use Dhamma into our life. Yeah, I'm far away from them, but am I able to give some kind of benefits to them when they come, right? So they have no choice. They are living 3 hours from us, 2 hours from us, right? No choice. And we have already found this place, which is actually quite suitable for monastics and practitioners who want to go into meditation and all that. That's the whole support system here. Okay, so it's good for us, but maybe not good for the devotees. But there are those who really have that kind of very strong faith where they really understand that to support the Sangha is something they really are happy to do. But they have no choice because sometimes due to work, they have to move closer to their workplace. Right. So in Australia, it's very often to find devotees who actually come and support us. Then after a few years, or some even after a few months, you'll say that Ayya Upekkha, I'm so sorry, I have to move to another state or I have to move to another place that is so far away. It's almost impossible for me to come. Yeah. So there's no choice. You have to just follow your karma. Sometimes you call it karma because your karma sort of like propels you to that direction to work in the area that's far away. Right. So all these things, we have little choice, but with that right effort and that right intention, that things can still happen. Yeah. Okay. So all this Dhamma that we are actually learning from the Lord Buddha, do we really have the right attitude to really explore for the correct understanding of the Buddha's teaching? It may be just in some kind of verses, very simply worded, but what is the essence of the teaching? We really have to understand that. So just now, the Venerable was just reminding the devotees who are coming here. One of the devotees was asking, just as what almost similar to what was asked, is it possible to just go through a ceremony for the refugees and 5 precepts, or do we need to repeat it every day? Yeah. So all these are teachings that sometimes are not clearly understood. And some teachers will just say that, oh, you just go through a ceremony and then you just have to ensure that you practice every day, which I too can agree, because once you accept the 3 refuges and the 5 precepts, then yeah, of course, you practice it in order to really accept the Dhamma into your life. You have to practice your precepts, okay? And then whether you have a teacher to give it to you every day or not, do we have that good blessing to have a teacher to reinforce that five precepts for us every day? The teacher was also saying that, well, it would be good if a teacher, a monk or a nun can actually give you the five precepts every day. But do we have that good karma to be living so near to a monastery and to get the precepts reinforced every day? Yeah. Important thing finally rests upon ourselves, right? That we have to ensure that the five precepts is being practiced every day, moment to moment. So the mindfulness part has to come in, the mindfulness that the five precepts is always there. Yeah. So for the five precepts, okay, we always feel that the four precepts is the most difficult. The most difficult is the fourth precept of musavada, the one on speech. Yeah, lying and harsh speech and gossiping, divisive speech. Yeah, that if we want to name it, is more than the four categories. But of course, these four categories can fork out into many more kind of unwholesome speech. So all these things are something that we have to really ponder upon and be very mindful of when we want to speak. But because of our habits, right, and because of that notion of that self there, and sometimes we do fall into the traps of actually speaking angry words. Yeah, but an important thing is that please try to remember how to apply the Kalama Sutta, where you don't just accept and believe everything you hear or see, especially nowadays on internet. There are a lot of fake news, and there's even over the telephone. Even in the monastery, we get some people who are trying to con us by believing into some kind of service that they can render and all that. So nowadays, especially, we just need to explore. We need to use Kalama Sutta in our life. So many things that is on the online. The news that is being spread around, it goes around the whole world so quickly, and it's so damaging. Why do we want to do that? Yeah. So all these things are Dhamma in action, right? The speech part, I know, is very hard. Even for monastics, sometimes you feel that even as monastics, especially when monastics who are actually handling a lot of duties and responsibilities, they need to be, I wouldn't say they, I would say we need to be very mindful at all times. But sometimes because of the busyness and because of the lack of mindfulness and all those things, sometimes we may not really have very pleasant speech. I would say that most monastics and most practitioners will not intentionally tell a lie. Yeah. So of course, you all will be asking, what about white lies? Yeah, all this kind of stuff. I'm quite sure you have got a lot of answers from your different teachers also. We just want to emphasize that the Buddha says that a person who intentionally lie is able to do a lot of other unwholesome activities. A person who intentionally lies is capable of doing a lot of other unwholesome activities. Yeah, so we have to be very mindful not to lie, especially lying to hurt others. That's the worst thing. Yeah, lying to save others. Of course, we call it a white lie. Yeah, the intention is to save others. Yeah, but in situations like, for instance, for us monastics who are in charge of maintenance and repairs of a monastery and all that, a lot of times we have to do confessions for doing something that is against our Vinaya rules. Like for us, one of our Vinaya rules is we are not allowed to cut trees. We are not allowed to dig soil. We are not allowed to damage plants. But as a work manager, when you see a thorny blackberry bush with very thorny long branches swaying somewhere where people can get cut when they walk by, Are you just going to let it be and let people get hurt? You can't. So we know that we have to do something, right? Even the precept of killing, okay? I know that when I was a layperson in a Chinese temple in Singapore, there were some white ants on top of the building eating away at a beam just across the main hall. As the monastic in charge, do you think that the monastic should just ignore the problem and let the beam get eaten and drop down on the devotees who may be chanting at the bottom? The monastics need to make a decision. What about beehives, hornets, nests, and all that? You are a Buddhist. You go to maybe take a morning walk, and then you find a what I call hornet's nest. Are we going to say that, oh, I'm not going to do any killing? I'll just let it be handled by other people. Just pass the buck to some other people. All these are little things that we find difficulty in deciding sometimes. So for me personally, what do? I am a monastic. I may be faced with those kind of similar situations, right? Okay, especially hornets and what I call termites, all these things, all these termites. Just now I may have spoken wrongly. Is the termites eating the beam or not? So all these things are decisions that we have to make. We know that killing will bring about its karma because it's really intentional killing. But on the other hand, we are trying to save human lives, right? So we have to weigh the pros and cons. Now, again, we talk about compassion. We have to have compassion and kindness for all beings, right? But what if you're living with someone who is really causing you a lot of conflicts in your community or in your family? What do you do? Who should you have compassion towards? The one person who is causing a lot of conflicts, or the whole community who is suffering from that one person? These are things that we're faced with a lot of times. Maybe in your workplace, maybe in your own family, even in our monastery, we face all these things too. So when our teachers say, oh, be kind to the person, be kind to the person. So we will ask, we can be kind to the person, but what about those other persons who are suffering from that one person? How do we be kind to both sides? So these are little situations that we have to face sometimes. And you, who is maybe the most senior or whatever, in charge or whatever, you have to make a decision. But the important thing is that we don't harm another person. We don't harm other beings. But when it comes to termites and bees and hornets and all those things, the decision needs to be made, and that is really intentional killing. So usually what does our teacher teach us to do? We will just go to the area where the nest is or where the insects are, bees or termites or whatever. We just speak to them to tell them that, look, we really don't want to kill you, but you are really posing a danger to human beings who are coming in and out of this building. We really need to get the exterminator here. So please, if you can, please move house to another place which is safe for you. I probably will get the pest control or whatever to come in maybe in a week's time. We really speak to them. These are ways that our teachers have taught us, because we really need to focus on human lives. Yeah. So you have to have that kind of courage to know that I'm making this decision. I'm going to be answerable to any of the insects that's going to be killed, but I'm also answerable, okay, for the merit of wanting to save life, human lives. All these things we have to be very clear. So Dhamma applied into our daily life sometimes can be a little bit difficult, where to draw the line. Yeah. So we have to know our intention. Now today, again, during lunchtime, some people were talking about euthanasia and all that. So there was this nun, a nurse who came in to ask, what do you all think? about euthanasia, helping people to die. Yeah. As monastics, we cannot encourage death. It's our very severe parajika offenses. We cannot talk about destroying the life of another person, human life. We cannot encourage all these things. We can't. So never go to a monastic to say, hi, Venerable, or I have to make a decision. Should I put a plug on my mom or dad? The doctor say that they will never live. They're just going to be like a vegetable lying on the bed and all these things. So when people come to us like that, we really tell them we are not able to make a decision for you. It's up to you to talk to your doctor and your family members. But at the end of the day, you must really ask yourself, do you really want your family member to be taken off the support system because of your, I would say, unwillingness to continue supporting him or her? Or is it really because that person is really, really, really suffering and you don't want to see the suffering? Yeah. So these are things that we are often faced with. As monastics, we can't give you an answer. Even for those people with pets, they see their pets with cancer, bleeding in the nose and all those things, and they come to us, ask, am I able to just put it to rest in peace? Yeah. For monastics, most of us will not tell you yes or no. You have to get your own answer, because we will never encourage you to kill. We will never encourage you to kill. Yeah, especially when it's a human life. It's a very strong offense for any monastic to encourage killing or taking the life. Yeah. So this has to be, currently I would say this is something that we all need to look into upon ourselves, to make it our responsibility to decide for ourselves and to tell our family members or friends or whatever. Like for us, even in the monastery, we already have written some kind of letter, or I think there are some directives which you need to fill forms in, where we will just state clearly that if we need support system, if we really feel that we don't want it, we have to clearly state that we don't want to be kept on support system just to keep us alive. So it doesn't fall on the shoulders of family members or the people, especially the Sangha who is around us, to have to make that decision. So in the past, there was no such thing. In the past, people don't write wills. People actually are not assisted by the government to do this kind of what they call directives, where you leave words for your family members or people you live with, how to take care of you when you are in a coma or where you are like a vegetable and all those things. People didn't do that in the past, but now we have that choice. We should make that decision right now so that it doesn't fall upon the shoulder of other people in the future. It's a very tough decision. We have this Upasika who actually felt so guilty after so many years, because when she saw I think it was the mother-in-law who was actually suffering in so much pain due to a sickness. So, and she was also on support system. So in order to end the suffering of the mother-in-law, the family members actually asked her to ask the doctor to remove the support system. But after the mother-in-law passed away, the family members some of them start to point fingers at her to say that she's responsible for the death of the mother-in-law. She felt so guilty for so many years until she came to speak to us. Yeah, she was really crying. She said that she never had any peaceful moments because she was always so remorseful to have actually taken the mother-in-law away from the support system. Yeah, so guilty. She never had peace of mind. Yeah. So what can we do as a monastic, right? We can only tell her that, look, your intention is the most important thing. Your intention was not to kill her. Your intention was really because you saw her suffering so much. You saw her suffering so much in pain. You just wanted to alleviate her suffering. So that intention there is not to harm her, it's really to release her of suffering. It was only after talking to us that she felt so much better after that. Yeah. So there are lots of things that we monastics actually have to skillfully speak to people sometimes. First, we have to be very mindful that we cannot encourage taking lives, especially human lives. And for that matter, even for animals and all those things, we will ask the person, the individual, you please make your own decision. Yeah. How do you feel about it? You make your own decision. Yeah. So all these things are what we call Dhamma that we have to really weigh sometimes in order to apply in our life. Yeah. But having said that, I think the most important thing is still to go into the practice that leads us towards awakening. Once we have awakened to the nature of what things are, phenomena are all about, causes, conditions, when we awaken, we do not have that what we call karmic formation anymore. Yeah, whatever we do has no more karma results. Once we are liberated, there's no more cause for coming back. So the things that we do is just like the Buddha and the Arahants. When they became enlightened as Buddha or Arahants, their body is still alive. They are still doing a lot of work, isn't it? But of course, as I say, I'm not there yet. I don't know how it works, but according to the teachings, okay, once you're an Arahant or a Buddha, whatever action you do, there's no karma there. So I can only attribute it to the realization of non-self, of emptiness. Non-self and emptiness. When there's no self, when you don't have anything to cling to, whatever you do, you have no attachment, you have no clinging. Yeah, everything is done through causes, conditions, of purity. Our purity. Yeah. So I can only attribute it to that. Wait till I become enlightened, then maybe I can realize what exactly is happening. So this is how the Buddha wants us to go live our life. The purpose of life is get ourselves enlightened and not come back again. Okay, enough for tonight. All right, so shall we do the dedication of merits then?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you very much, Ayya.
Thank you.
So, yeah, can we invite you to lead us for the dedication?
Yeah, okay. So again, mute but chant. Okay, so this is something that is actually positive energy from us. We want to, you are from Singapore, I'm from Australia, you're from different parts of Singapore. So with all of you spreading the positive energy from that so-called self there, the energy is being spread to all in all directions. Okay, all right. So do it together, please. Yeah. Akasatta Shabunnatta Devanaga Pitika Punyang Tangan Rakkantu Sasanang Akasatta Shabunnatta Devanaga Mahitika Punyang Tangan Anumoditva Charang Rakkantu Desana Akasatta Jabunnatta Devanaga Mahitika Punyang Tang Anumoditva Charang Rakkantu Mangparang Itavata Shamhehi Sampatang Punya Sampadang Sappe Devanumodantu Sappe Sampati Siddhya Itavata Shamhehi Sampatang Punya Sampadang Sappe Bhutanumodantu Sappa Sampati Siddhya Etavata Jamhehi Sampatang Punya Sampadang Sappe Satta Anumodantu Sappa Sampati Siddhya tiya idam nyatinang hotu sukhita hum sunyatayo idam nyatinang hotu sukhita hum sunyatayo idam nyatinang hotu sukhita hum sunyatayo. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Now, before I go, I also like to invite all those beings who have no family members or friends to perform merits on their behalf. I would like to invite them to come and partake in this merit making from all of us here, from Australia and Singapore. May all beings who need merits to be reborn into a good destination to connect with the Holy Triple Gem. May you all come to partake in this merit and make determination to be born in a good family where you can connect with the Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha. And may all of you be guided by Aryang teachers on the Noble Eightfold Path, and also to be supported by family members, friends, and Kalyana So may all beings be well, happy, and living in peace and harmony. May all have good health too. Thank you so much. Good night.